It's our latest instalment of our Road to Cheltenham series, and actually a busier weekend than I was envisaging on the racing front in terms of Cheltenham pointers. Joel and Frankie alongside me as always. And before we get stuck into what we saw over the weekend, we did the Punters Guide on Friday, and boy, did we have a bout of seconditis this weekend, Joel.
Yeah, it was a shocker. I mean, that WhatsApp group, there was no more normal words and expletive words. It was how. I'm going to go watch Soccer Saturday. Personally, when you're coming down to it, and you've got the Veterans Chase, where I put a buy right and said the words, it'll run its race. It always does for the last 200 years, but we'll find one good enough. It did in Sam Brown. And Edwardstone was, put a line through that. We'll talk about him later on. But everything else was just finishing second, and it was just like, oh, come on. Horses going wide. Just some of it. It was comedy if you'd not had your hard earned on.
And Frankie, it was summed up because we all fancied Trelawn, who went for a little sightseeing trip around the entire town of Wetherby and suddenly got beat by a length and a half after being smashed off the boards. That kind of summed up the weekend that we had.
I was going to say the same. That basically summed up how we got on. I don't like saying this, but we did have the right horses. It just didn't go right for us on the day. There was plenty that once the race was done, our reasoning made sense. And you could see, like Trelawn, horses that could have and should have won, but it just didn't happen. And you do get those weekends. So we'll be back, I'm sure. And hopefully we have a change of luck this weekend. But yeah, seconditis was plagued in our bunting.
It certainly was. Right, this is episode 7 of our Road to Cheltenham then, and don't forget you can subscribe and like us here on YouTube and catch up with us every single week, or take us everywhere you go on Spotify and catch up with the series, and of course Punters Guide every Friday ahead of the weekend action. A busy weekend as well to look forward to. Ascot and Haydock, fingers crossed they beat the Cold Snap this weekend. But we're going to start with the Arkle Conti Chase. It was a race we spoke about on Friday, and well, we could have backed any of the five. There was a bit of a sad postscript, not long till May, sadly fatally injured after falling at the last. But you didn't like Banbridge, Joel. You did fancy Edwardstone. It was too keen. I've never seen it like that before. And typically, it's pretty simple, isn't it? Always wise after the event. Just back the Irish runner.
That's what everybody said in every WhatsApp group. What you're doing, just back the Irish runner. The Banbridge was very impressive. We'll start with Banbridge, 5-1 now. I think he keeps a bit up his sleeve. If you look at any of those previous runs, I mean, he should have taken the last and then just flew away. He doesn't. So I was thinking, am I coming back round to this Banbridge way of thinking and thinking, nah, don't be stupid. Allaho with 3 legs and a year off, then half a spine would smash him. Edwardstone, what do you do? Lit up. If you're a running punter, you would have been lay right from the start. You could tell straight away from the start. Didn't stay. I thought it would stay.
He didn't give himself a chance of staying, did he?
No. He just then tried to make an effort. Maybe 3 out, something like that. But the petrol light had been flashing for a long while. I had a couple of chats with a couple of mates over the weekend because I've been on and off this horse for so long, and I was back on the train. And we came around to the way of thinking of you either stick him in a field now, or you have a little go at changing the jock. And again, it's no disrespect to Tom Cannon whatsoever, but as the horse is getting older, if your missus tells you the same thing over and over again, and we came up with all these weird solutions, and you get somebody new in there that tells you, you start being more obedient, don't you? Lily Pinchin. Get Lily having a go on there, whatever. But for me, I was just frustrated. It's too slow to be a 2-miler and doesn't step up and trip.
The in-between. Yeah, I'm not sure what they do with him next. He was disappointing, but maybe worth another go if he can settle. But Frankie, what was your take on this Arkle Conti? Banbridge getting the better of Pictor, a disappointing Edwardstone.
Yeah, it was a good race to watch if you didn't back Edwardstone. It was a good finish between Pictor and Banbridge. And to be fair, I mean, Pictor did exactly what we thought he would. He went at a good pace, he jumped really well, and he ran a really good race. And it's frustrating because I was probably right about him. He's not quite at that top level, but he's a very good horse that sits between grade 2 and top grade 1s. Banbridge, as Joel said, maybe a bit up his sleeve, was a great performance on his reappearing run and coming over here. But I suppose coming over here to win the race, they would have had him right. And then Edwardstone was just a bit of a head scratcher. It just didn't happen for him, did it? And I don't think that they'll try that again. I think he does have to go back to 2 miles. And the question of what race, where, and when is a tricky one to answer. Like you could run him in the Champion Chase. He's not going to win it. He could run in it and hold his own to some degree. But yeah, I mean, what they do and where they go, I don't know. But I think he sticks to 2 miles.
Maybe Aintree, perhaps.
I thought Aintree. You might as well, if you're not going Cheltenham, see what's at DRF. Stick an Irish jock on. Just have a go. Stick him on a boat now. He probably won't even beat the boat there. Stick him on there and see what happens, and pull him up, and then Aintree looks like the right race. But then is he going to slam into Victoria again? Unless you stay at 2 miles. So if you're Alan King, you're sitting there going, I thought this was top class. I thought it was top class. But it's in that middle, isn't it? It's the
bit of I don't want to say a shame, but like an Arkle winner and a good Arkle winner, Tingle Creek winner. And then just, I don't know, he was disappointing, wasn't he, at the weekend? It didn't happen for him. But look, he may come back and win a race. I mean, if I owned him, I'd just be thinking Tingle Creek next year. That's the best he's looked. Let's target that.
Quinn Alexander at Royal Ascot, Alan King.
yeah.
Your purpose, get him on the flat. He has Royal Ascot success. Just quickly before we then move on, if you're an Allaho fan, Frankie, I know you are, would you be worried about Banbridge?
No, I was having a look at this and just looking at trying to go back in pieces of form that the horses they've been beaten by, and Banbridge sits in that similar sort of bracket as Pictory for me. He beat Saint Ra by a length, like a good horse, but not an amazing horse, but was beaten 10 lengths by Al Fabiola, a really, really good horse. Beaten 14 lengths by Mighty Potter, another top class horse. So like he can beat the horses that are there or thereabouts in Grade 1s, but I don't think he mixes it with the best. Whereas you look at Allaho, I mean, he was in there with Brave Man's Game, Gold Cup second behind Galloping the Champs, a monster. Hewitt's in there, seems to be getting better and better. Shishkin's in there, who is like, mixing with the top. So I think there's another tier, and I don't think the race we saw at the weekend hits that top Grade 1 tier, which I think Allaho's in. So as Joel said, I think he's the most likely winner. He's got to get there and turn up, but I think he's a class above.
Okay, let's move on to maybe next year's Ryanair horses, the Novice Chasers then, and we'll start with you this time, Frankie, because we know was a horse that you both really like, and I'm becoming a fan as well. It's Grey Dawning. You know what you're going to get with him. He's honest as the day is long, and it was a local success for the Skeltons in the Hampton. It won by 14 lengths at the end, despite trying to stick Apple away over the wing at the second last.
Yeah, really good performance. The horse races so enthusiastically and genuinely. I'm sure is one that Harry really enjoys riding. Like, it just looks to race really, really well and be pretty straightforward. Bar the last was maybe a touch ropey, but yeah, Grey Dawning's looking a real contender for the 3 miler at Cheltenham. Even with being beaten by Stay Away Faye, I think that form might actually reverse looking at it now. Stay Away Faye, Nichols was firing at the time. That was Grey Dawning's first run for the Skeltons when all of the horses that were out first time weren't doing as well as they could. So, I think that form might be reversed. So if you're looking at the staying hurdlers last year, Stay Away Faye obviously won at the festival. I think Grey Dawning's got the better of him over fences. And Apple Away, she won the big staying handicap at Aintree, and Grey Dawning's just put her to bed pretty easily. So this side of the Irish Sea, Grey Dawning looks to have a hold on these staying novice chasers. He does it very, very well. Could jump a few a bit tidier, but I think he's a proper horse. Really good performance.
12th one for the Brown Advisory, Joel, and this staying novice chase division's potted up a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, starting to get a bit more excited. I had 2 bets on Saturday after this. This is the race that I was all over at the weekend. The only one really. Grey Dawning, Summit Haydock, just brilliant. But what is it with all these top horses that I like? Either jumping left, right, through the wing. What's it doing? They've got a bit of temperament or whatever it is. Maybe that's it. But I backed Grey Dawning at 14s for Brown Advisory, and I backed Apple Away for the Mares Chase at 25s. We'll get proper prices over the next couple of weeks as people start to price them up and, stick with them. I was just really impressed once again. I mean, we called it right with Broadway Boy. done for the season. You know, it's a typical of his trainer to do what he does. It was one too many races. Put that away for next year.
Well, the direct opposite of Nicky Henderson.
Yeah. Constitution Hill is sitting there like frothing at the mouth trying to get there. And Broadway Boy just wants to, oh, Jesus, I'm knackered. I just need a little rest. That's all I want. But I thought those two cut each other's throat a little bit. Sam did go into second, sit behind Apple away, even with the, getting the mayor's allowance. But I took Grey Dawning away from that and thought it was as good as I thought it was. And then Apple away. He's taking a risk if it goes to Mayor's Chase. But I thought anywhere between 10s and 25s, is a little bit of a play. And it's a division that is hotting up now.
Yeah, so I was taking with the Grey Dawning, but yeah, Apple Away is a horse that I like as well. What about the Totem then? Colonel Harry delivered there. I mean, was he I would say he's a fortunate winner because he
was. No, he was a bloody fortunate winner, but he won by 8 lengths.
Go on then.
No. Right, let me explain to you.
Let me say he's 25-1 for the Turners, first of all. Is he a player or was he a very lucky winner at Wetherby?
He's an old plodder. He's a very lucky winner. Not old, but he's a plodder. Frankie's stream cut out at the weekend, and he was like, "What has happened here?" So you're explaining to me. My local co-op is being rebranded as Asda, so that they had 90% off everything in the shop. So I was in there getting everything, and I got back and watched it, and I was like, "What the hell's going on?" At the the rain snapped or whatever it was with David Bass. The horse was smashed, Trelawn throughout the morning. I still don't really know what has gone on there. It went so far wide, and then I really like David Bass as a rider, and I've only seen him cock up once in about 2 years. And he
fancied the 3-mile trip.
Yeah. but you're probably better to explain this, Frankie, because I watched it back. You watched it, live on a stream that cut out, but it just went wide. And of course, with the new whip rules, he gave it a couple, so therefore that's 2 off the. I was not impressed by the winner by any means. I thought Trelawney would have won by 6-7 lengths stayed straight, and he's never done that before. And that was one of my horses in the Big Acca at the weekend, so I was a little bit peed off.
He was fighting to every fence down the back. David Bass, to be fair to him, was trying to get him going, and not so much get him going, but trying to keep him on an even kill. And he tried to hang on the top bend as well, but he was fighting to every fence. It ended up being quite aggressive, and I thought that'd have told more than it did. I mean, he actually touched down in front over the second last. He was back in front. Colonel Harry headed him. Then he came back and got back in front. But maybe it did tell in the end, but only a length and a half, where the fact he was gunned into every of the last, 9 fences, I expect him to be probably beaten a lot further than he did, but giving away 10, 15 lengths on the bottom bend, Frankie.
Yeah, I had a couple of in-play texts. One was from you, Matt. One was from a mate of mine saying, if this wins, it will be a miracle. And that was about halfway around. Everything went wrong for Trelawn, and Colonel Harry was pretty straightforward, but not a player for the festival, in my opinion. If you're looking at the race from the weekend, Trelawn, we all agree, should have won. I know that we all put him up as a selection, so it's even more frustrating, but look, he probably would have won, wouldn't he? And if you go back in Trelawn's form, he was behind Grey Dawning, not by far, but that's when Grey Dawning absolutely clattered the second last at Cheltenham. So he would have been probably the winner of that race. And then Ginny's Destiny's not, in that kind of caliber as a Turner's player, in my opinion. So for Colonel Harry,
it's all there in the book. We got it right. Got the loser. But have you ever tried to explain that to somebody that's not a racing fan?
So it doesn't matter. If you haven't got the winner, you haven't got the winner, have you?
You haven't got the winner. Well, I got everything else right.
Well, show your workings out. It was right.
But long answer short, and no, Colonel Harry's not a player, in my opinion, for the festival. He's not good enough.
And also, while we've been talking about this, a Gaelic Warrior hacks up by 5 lengths.
Christ, we thought Trelawn was bad going left-handed. Warriors like they will be like bumper cars, yeah. I don't know what they do with Trelawn. Maybe go right-handed. Reynoldstown maybe up in Trip. Did they go back right-handed? He's won at Carlisle.
He's not done it. He's not done it before. I mean, it must have just been
no.
Something. I don't know.
They probably had the Yorkshire brass band just in the corner of the stand playing. He fancied a bit of that.
The Yorkshire best bitter. Right, couple at Fairyhouse over the weekend. The 2 milers. Hunter's Yarn. Easy win at Fairyhouse. He would have won easy on debut as well, but for 4th at the last, and he clouted the second last. I mean, he's an exciting horse, but he does have throw in a howler. Would you be concerned in terms of the Arkle, Joel?
Yeah, I would. I would. It's another one of those, and there's a lot of them this season where you go, it's a really good horse, got a really good engine, but will that one? You know what I mean? Yeah, that's it. And you can't, and I hate to be cliche, but you can't do that around Cheltenham, at that speed. You watch it. I was outside in the garden watching it just on my phone, seeing what it did, and did expect, exactly what I expected to do, apart from putting a couple of bad ones. But I mean, look, it ain't gonna beat Marine National, is it? I mean, there's no contest there, and I don't think 16-1 is value for the Arkle. I don't want to say I wasn't impressed. It's all that thing about talent, but we'll put one in. You can't do that at Cheltenham, and I've done that so many times. I've looked at good horses, and you can make the odd mistake at certain tracks, but you can't do it at Cheltenham.
No, you certainly can't. Frankie, 16-1 for the Arkle. Too short on its jumping issues?
Not sure. You've got to have a crack. You've got to take Marine National on with something when he's 4-7. And 16s isn't the worst price. I'd like to see him tested. Like, could he? Depends. Are you a glass half full or half empty? I mean, could he get better at jumping if they went a bit quicker? He's he's gone down to the last in a bit of a canter. And there's a little bit, like he did get a bit of a form boost at the weekend. He was however many lengths clear of Safreur when falling the time before, wasn't he? Safreur ran a decent race behind Quilixios. I think that wasn't a bad race. And the fact that Hunter's Yarn had the easy beating of Safreur, if not falling, I think gives him a little bit of a form boost. And yeah, he's got a big engine. I'd like to see him go quicker. I'd like to see him fired into a few. And provided that he didn't make a mistake early on, I think he might actually get better going faster. So I wouldn't put anyone off an each way bet on him.
No, he kind of obviously did his chances no harm with a victory. But Blood Destiny was beaten from the Mullins camp into the Arkle. But Joel, this has kind of knackered our grand annual hopes now, because we had Spillane's Tower as a long-term target potentially for that 2-mile handicap, but he's going to be too high now, you'd imagine, isn't he? Or he'll certainly be up there getting a big enough mark.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I don't think there's any excuse for Blood Destiny either at the weekend. Spillane's Tower is an improver. I mean, what was it, beaten 20 lengths, was it, at Nace by Facile Vega? So you're looking through all
That's
this.
when he caught all right, didn't he? And he's won twice since.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Blood's Destiny, there was no excuses there. And, you can have a look on Twitter. And, of course, as we know, it's always the jockey's fault and everything's corrupt and everything. Thought the jockey did nothing wrong and even got into Blood Destiny as well. It wasn't just, we'll save it for another day. Got stuck in, but it was beaten by a much more progressive horse. And if you're looking down there, what price is Spillane's Tower here? For,
18s.
18s.
For the Arkle.
Yeah, 18s for the Arkle.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer that than Hunter's Yarn. But then we go back to Facile Vega, and you go every week. I keep harping on about how it's Willie Mullins' favourite horse. I mean, this is going to go faster stripes on it, double exhausts, every bit of headgear, cheap pieces, Ruby Walsh out of retirement, whatever it is with AP McCoy. I still think Facile Vega is a crack at each way bet in this race if you don't fancy the favourite. But at this point, I think the favourite just turns up, hacks up, see you later, goes and has a pint with Gaelic Warrior.
Right, so that's obviously Facile Vega, son of Vega. What about what we saw over the weekend, a son of Annie Power? Beautifully bred, but you mentioned about Facile Vega being Willie Mullins' apple of his eye. He's kept pretty quiet about this one. Start off at Ballinrobe, then one at Galway, and all of a sudden now, Mr. Kapara is a new supreme favourite. Now, we just talked about it a minute ago, Frankie. I said I'll pick up on this. His jumping was pretty suspect early on, but he winged the last, and I think the quicker he goes, the better he's going to be. And I was really taken with him. 92 for the Supreme right now, 4-1 for the Supreme. He is the new favourite. He's skinny enough, but if he gets a bit of practice, and he will do, be well suited to Sutton, he's obviously got an engine and the ground as well, if it's decent. I think he's a major player. I was really impressed the way he kicked between the two and went for home yesterday and won by 7 lengths. Just, it was only a small field, but I was really taken by him. But obviously you've got Unice Brigante Post-Fortune, Jericho de Repene in the same silks. But JP McManus is not averse to having a couple in the Supreme.
He's not, and I think of all races, the Supreme, anything can happen. They're young horses. If you've got a couple good enough, send them and take your chances. And hey, if you get a couple in the top 3, you're not complaining either. So I don't think that JP would look to split them, in my opinion anyway. And I was impressed with the performance at the weekend. Like you said, from the 2-pole to the finish, they were bunched up really at the 2 furlong marker. There was only a couple of lengths between first and last, and he finished 7 lengths in front of second and a further 17 lengths in front of third. Put some serious distance between himself and the rest of the field in a short space of time. So it was very good. Like you said, jumped the last a lot better, going quicker. And to try and put the form into a bit of context, I know that they're all young horses and some horses go to the Supreme having not run in that many competitive races, but the horse in third by 24 lengths. His previous race was 4th to King of Kingsfield. He went on to finish 2nd in the Grade 1 Royal Bond. So he hasn't just beaten a really poor field. There's some decent horses in there. And as I said, distance was put between himself and the rest pretty quickly.
Which one would you ride out of the 2 JP horses?
I'd be riding the Jericho de Repene for my 25 to 1 as fast as I can.
It's the wrong answer, because you know as well as I do that jockeys cannot bet. So we've just got you there. That's it.
What about Fate?
I'd be riding Mystical Power because it'd have
no talking about Fate, Joel, don't forget Mystical Power. He was in the Nace hurdle that got fogged off over 2.5 miles. If he'd have run in that, he wouldn't have won the Moscow Flyer. We won't be talking about a new favourite for the Supreme, but he showed so much pace. Surely he's got to stay at the 2-mile route.
100% got to stay at the 2-mile route. There's no doubt about it. And I think out the 2 of them, and it's not just to have a go at Frankie. We mentioned, I think it was last week, about the Anoraks who've been on the Jericho de Repene horse, and visually it was so impressive, but they've worked out timings and whatever and how slow it was and all of this, and it's not my bag at all. I'm not all about that. But between the 2 of them now, I would be with Mystical Power. Just again at the 2 miles, it's fate, as they say. If it had gone through the fog, it might have finished 7th or whatever it was, because you couldn't see a bloody thing there. But no, everything is starting to come together now in the Supreme, as it is for a lot of these. And people will say it's 4 to 1. Is it too short now? Yeah, it probably is. I can't see it being any shorter on the day if a lot of them go. But if you give me the free tenner bet now, I would be with that, because you've just got to look at what you see, and that's what I like.
You probably hear me typing in the background. I couldn't quite find what I was looking for, but I saw something around Mullins horses running to their market value in the Supreme, and they usually do. And his record with favourites, if they do go off favourite, they have a pretty good record of going to win. So if you were impressed, a bet to nothing now, at 4s or whatever, you back it each way. A bet to nothing if it places, goes off short on the day. If you look back at any William Mullins favourite for the Supreme, they are very rarely out of the places. So it's not the worst idea if you think that it will end up going off shorter to have a safe each way bet now.
Yeah, I just like the way he's brought him along. He was always going to be looked at, being with Galileo and Annie Power, obviously having that pedigree, but he's been brought along steadily. And I bet he's glad he didn't run in that 2.5 mile. I've shown what he showed yesterday. And you mentioned the Moscow Flyer record. Vitor won it. I think the Duvan win it as well. A lot of his Supreme horses have won the Moscow Flyer. Did Imperi Pass win as well, I think? So, yeah, he's got such a good record going on to Cheltenham Glory. Right, just a quick look at the Triumph Hurdle then. Paul Nichols, not known for his juvenile hurdles, but he unleashed a couple of nice French recruits at the weekend. Campbell de Matin won the Chatteris Fen, and then Caliph de Belay, well backed into odds-on favouritism and made all at Kempton. I do like it when the money's down, Frankie, for the Nichols yard, and Harry Cobden just kept this one simple from the front and further towards the inside, the Chianti Classico.
Yeah, he did keep it simple. And to be honest, that works in Khalif de Burleigh's favour for the Triumph, because, juvenile hurdlers, that they can be a bit, tricky, I suppose is the word I'm looking for. You want one that's straightforward. That's not all the battle, but it's half the battle, having one that is probably more straightforward to ride. And he was. And he looked to be setting a real good pace. At one point early on, Cobden just had a look behind, I think, to just question whether he was going too quick or not, because he was traveling really well. And the field was getting pretty strung out around halfway, I think, just because he was setting a good pace and actually doing it quite easily. He obviously bunched up as he's probably taken a pull, turning for home. And then, yeah, again, it was quite straightforward when he asked him to quicken, he did. And it was a nice performance. Whether or not he's good enough to win a Triumph, I don't know. But as I said, it's half the battle having one that is straightforward at a young age, and he did put in a good performance, and he did travel really, really nicely. So out of the two that you mentioned, I'd definitely be with Khalif de Burleigh. I think the other one it's classic, but Nichols buying a French recruit to be a chaser one day. Don't think he's going to be a Triumph Hurdle winner.
Yeah, and it's not like he's done it before, is it? Gets him from France. I think I'll agree with everything that Frankie says there, but it's English, it's Paul Nichols. I couldn't say that, and every week I've still got two in the book, and I still have it between Burdett Road and Stormheart.
Well, on Monday, Frankie, I know, was keeping an eye on Headwind in a race at Punchestown that won. He's clearly got plenty of ability. He's 20 to 1 for the Triumph Hurdle, but
jumps well, doesn't it? Jumps well. The last.
Well, jump like a snooker table, Frankie. Something's got to brush up on it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was made for interesting viewing if you had money on.
You did let us know. You did let us know, by the way. But you also said, note, I'm never, ever backing a tip that I get sent anymore. So I went, all right, I'll just watch it then. And
Same here.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't watch
it's a funny one, isn't it? The opposite of what I've just said about Khalif de Burleigh, like, loads to improve on, but has talent. So where do you sit? Do you want one that looks a bit more polished and will run a good race and give you a chance, or do you want one that looks like he might have a big engine and like a talented athlete, but jumps terrible and has to improve?
Right, let's just have a couple more quickly. Then Champion Bumper, we had a couple of interesting ones. Romeo Coolio, big drifter, but won well at Fairhouse on Saturday. That's 8 to 1 now for the Champion Bumper. And there's a big gamble on a John Joe O'Neill and a Bill Joyce, who I think is obviously a bit of a prospect later on, but was well backed into 6 to 5 and made all. He cost quite a bit at the sales. He also was a very nice winner of a Bumper, Joel.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. I mean, we'll go back to the John Joe horse in a minute, because obviously you're right up John Joe's alley, so you know exactly what's going on there. Romeo Coolio, is that Gordon's? And it cost that 400 odd grand or whatever it was. Again, very impressed. Bumpety Brump, our correspondent, had not even talked about this. 5-length point to point winner, I think it was very, very impressive. And Bill Joyce, I do like it when the money comes for one of John Joe's. I was impressed, but I've put up Joystick this week in the Champion Bumper in the Rich Ritchie colours, and it won on that such heavy ground. I think the first two were 25 lengths clear. There was that, and I'm still waiting for On Cloud. Is it On Cloud Wine that I keep getting a tip for? On Cloud Wine. I've not seen it yet, so it might not run, but. Bill Joyce, you're the John Joe head of fan club. So did he text you? Did he voice note you? What's?
Yeah, well, he said beginning of the season that he really liked. There was a couple that liked. Mount Fuji Park came out and won early on in the season over hurdles, and Bill Joyce was another. Obviously, paid quite a bit for it at Cheltenham, and
90 grand or something, was it?
Sorry,
was it 90 grand or something they paid for it?
No, it was 240, I think it was.
Was it?
Yeah, it was really expensive. So
225.
I went 225. There you go. Yeah. So 7 to 2 into 6 to 5. And again, like Khalif de Burleigh, it's like they know what they've got. Keep it simple. Go out, make all. And I thought he did it quite tidily as well. So again, I'm not sure if he'll go to Cheltenham. Maybe he's a bit more of a prospect, but he certainly made a decent impression in a bumper. How is Bumpety Bump, John? I heard from him ages.
No, he's all right. I think he's in Barbados or somewhere at the moment, or Egypt or somewhere.
His first 6 winners of the season.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, it's got a bit cold, quite literally. I think when he sees the ground like this, You know, and he said there won't be any racing on this weekend, so I think he's just buggered off to you know, to go and get a little bit of heat on his back. Because bearing in mind, there's still internet all around the world with his his VPN blocker or whatever it's called. VPL.
Not that we condone it. Right, just a very quick word on a couple of handicaps, because obviously we're 8 weeks away. We'll have the entries in a couple of weeks' time now with handicaps. But we had a Thames qualifier at Warwick, and we had a big field handicap at Kempton as well with the Lanzarote over Timber. Anything catch your eye of those two, Frankie?
I'm gonna quickly give a shout to Shallow River, not just because I put him up on the Punter's Guide, but was staying on really well. Like, you wouldn't have been backing him turning for home. He was travelling almost worst of all and in 5th place, but stayed on really well and finished his race quite strongly. I think in a big field, with some horses to go past, and the addition of the hill at Cheltenham might actually be in with a chance. So I thought Shallow River was actually ran quite a decent race at Warwick. And then Orkin Risky didn't catch my eye in the race, because you probably didn't see him because he finished last, but did catch my eye before the race on why they had placed him in a 2 mile 5 handicap hurdle. He won the Betfred hurdle at Newbury last year off of 138, went to the festival in the county off of 147 or something like that, was put up loads for winning at Newbury. So quite a high mark, carried 11 stone 6, didn't like the soft going, finished midfield, so it didn't happen for him that day. He's an 8-year-old. He's a very good horse. They won't get too many chances to have a crack at a handicap at Cheltenham, and I think they've been gifted a little bit with a lowering mark this season. They ran him over 2 miles 5. He's never gone that trip. Never was going to stay that trip. If he gets dropped a couple of pounds for the weekend, he's back to his last winning mark of 138, and he can go back and have a crack at the county. So, yeah, he didn't catch my eye in the race, but before I thought, why the hell are they running a 2 mile hurdler with a bit of speed in a 2 mile 5 handicap? Is to get him back to his last winning mark.
Keep an eye on then going forward. What about in that Thames qualifier, Joe? We really did like Kentara. Do you think would have won if it had jumped the last? I mean, I did put Gifford up as the danger. Didn't have a penny on as a saver, so more annoyed about that. But Kentara, if it had jumped the last, you think he'd have held on?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Was it 1 to 500 and running? It jumped the last all right, and then just nodded again, didn't it? That was, again, it was the story of the weekend. There was no problem with the ride. There was no problem with anything. It just, I mean, I was counting the cash at that point. Should have won, didn't win, but our workings out were right. And Mark of Gold. There was 2 fallers in the race, one that you backed and one that I backed. I backed Mark of Gold. You backed
Wonder got brought down.
I brought you down. Honestly, Mark of Gold for Gary Moore, it drifted, was 25-33, something like that. And I still
that was one of the texts you mentioned where there was more expletives than words.
Yeah. And then you replied with exactly the same. You brought mine down, you whatever. So it was just that sort of weekend. But keep a lookout for Mark for Gold. It looked quite a heavy fall, but he was up on his feet straight away. I've not heard anything as of yet. And Namir Lion, again, hash at the last.
Another second.
You are? And it was
another second.
Yeah, another second. Could not have seen JJ Riley winning that race at 33s or whatever.
33s, but we're still a stable first string.
Yeah, still a stable first string. And pretty much everything at Skelton's was running really well at the weekend, apart from Langadam. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this last week or we've got a show in between. Are you ready for this one about Langadam? Quote, he is a seasonal horse.
He is. He's just warming up.
A seasonal horse.
I wonder what that season may be. Spring?
Spring, I'd say about, just coming into his own about March time.
As soon as the pot gets big enough, he starts warming up.
Is he entered for any? Is he priced up for anything at the Cheltenham Festival? Because I think that's I don't know. It might be worth a few quid. Would he be favourite in a big race or anything?
He'd be favourite for the Coral Cup again. You imagine, only to retain his title. But I mean, how good? Well, we know. Everyone knows. It's clear that they're obviously trying to get him back to a reasonable handicap mark to give him a chance because he's a very talented horse, but he is a handicap. He's not quite graded company, so they're going to give him every single chance to have a go back down to his mark, and that's why, after being tailed off in his last 4 runs, he'd still be favourite for that contest.
Yeah, I love that. It's very the old days of AJ Martin, isn't it? Old Tony Martin. You look at that, you can't roll pulled up.
But it's time. It's not
Yeah, I
quite
love that.
time.
Do you know what? If I'm Alan King, I'm putting Edwardstone in the back of the horse box tomorrow, saying, "What can you do with him for next year? I'll give you a year to get him sorted."
One of the comment that always sticks out in my mind when we mentioned Langer Dan is I can't remember. Josh Stacey was asking him what he thinks of him being dropped asking Dan Scouten what he thinks of him being dropped a couple of pounds, and he just had a little smile and went, "Lovely jubbly." It's brilliant.
I think leaving me lower now after that at the weekend. I'm even lower.
Oh yeah, so it was looking for £2. It was £2 above his Coral Cup mark last year, wasn't he? So he needs to get dropped, and Charlie told him out the back of the telly. It was a finished ninth or something. Because I've just started watching it now as a comedy thing, and I wish these ISO cams on. And I said last week, I like it. I like it. We know what they're doing, and as long as we're on board, which was it 2 years ago when he fell, but then we got the money back at Aintree.
Yeah, then he would at Aintree, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You've got Langerdang in 14th. We'll go and win. And Auchan Risque in 17th. That's your 2 Cheltenham Festival handicap hurdle winners.
Red hot Lanzarote form. Right. Second anti-post bets for the portfolio, please. We put 3 up last week. All at big prices. We've been a little bit more, well, a little from shorter prices, a bit more sensible, I think it's fair to say, this weekend. So I went with, I think Joel gave us first last week. So let's try Frankie first time this, please.
Yep, other end of the book, I'm looking at a favourite, but I think a very fairly priced favourite of the Ryanair. We mentioned it at the start of the show. In my opinion, Allaho is a class above those in behind, even though they have been winning races, Banbridge at the weekend. But Allaho mixes it with the top. He's won the race plenty of times. He looked as good as ever, even though he didn't win the King George. Back to Cheltenham, I don't think they'll be able to deal with him. If he travels like he does, he wins.
There we are then. Not happy with Banbridge at the weekend. There's nothing to fear from that. Allaho. Frankie, get him in the book now, he says. All right, Joel, what are you going for?
Well, I took the mick out of Frankie last week, so he wants to put Allaho up. And we're like, you can't start the first week with a 9-4 shot. I think he's best price 11-4 now. And I said earlier on, wins with 3 legs and half a pelvis in that field. So I completely agree with my right honourable friend. I had it between Canto Classic. Is it Classic? Canto Classic?
Oh.
Yeah, that one for the Ultima, but I might save that one until we get some proper prices. Apple away for the Mares Hurdle.
Hurdle?
Mares Chase. All right, at least you're listening. Well done. Yeah, for the Mares Chase, anywhere between 10s and 25s. I think I was looking around 14s this morning, but yeah, I'll have a little go at that. It's the obvious place to go. It ain't going to beat the boys. And I just think a really, 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 really nice horse, but just isn't that level of being available to beat the boys. What about you, Matthew?
Oh, thank you, Joel. Well, obviously this time of year, you're looking at something that you think won't be any bigger on the day, but, it's got a chance to contract. And I just think Manila Indo, I can't see him going off at any end around about 4-9-2. I think he can only get a little bit shorter, just on the back of what, we won't see him again, but just on the back of what we saw of him last time out, carrying that massive weight in the handicap. Obviously, Henry de Bromhead had said before that he does send him on these Banks courses and obviously hunting and things just to keep his mind on the game. Look, he's a former Gold Cup winner taking on handicappers, essentially, off-level weights in a cross-country of a 3 mile 6. He proved he handled it. He proved he stays. He proved he's got the aptitude. He's a high-class horse, probably the most high-class horse we've ever seen in the cross-country, and I think he'll take the world a beating. So around about 4-1, I think Manila Indo is a cast iron pick. And they say once those handicaps start getting a little bit more informed and some more price come available, we'll start looking down that route, because I need to beat Joel to the punch on Chianti Classico, because he will be in my portfolio at some point. That is for sure.
Do you know what? I love Manila Indo. I love Allaho as well. I mean, as soon as we watched the last cross country like that wins, it's starting to shape up really nicely now. I'm getting that little buzz now, a bit more exciting. It's freezing outside, but looks like a beautiful day, and we're getting them all in the book. And come on, this is the year we're all moving to Dubai, isn't it? Barbados.
It is, yeah. Yes, retire on our winnings. So, right, that was the Road to Cheltenham in episode 7. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and you'll get notified of a new episode, or you can take us with us on Spotify. Listen to us in the car if you like, whenever you want. So, with the boys next week, I'm away on pastures, and you're off to Germany for a bit of a weekend. So,
Yeah, what are you going to Germany for?
Hey?
What are you going to Germany for? Like, who goes to Germany?
What?
Why not?
It's too cold here, but it's even more colder.
Are you taking the kids? You're taking the kids to Germany?
Oh, my heck.
Oh, right, okay. You going with lads?
Nope.
You go with missus?
Yeah.
Yeah, you enjoy Germany.
Weekend away. Yeah, so we're off to Germany. So we're just with the boys, taking you through what they see at both Haydock and Ascot this weekend. Saying that if I am here on Monday, the weekend hasn't gone too well. So join the boys. I may be back on Monday for the next installment of the Road to Cheltenham. Of course, join us Friday then as we look ahead to Haydock and Ascot. Fingers crossed it beats the big freeze. We'll see you then.